Good evening. This is Maestro Cortello with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite modcast. Today we have a high-level 1v1 on Greentooth Gorge. Our first player right here is none other than HolyHammer. The Warboss of Dawn of War 2 is back. So he's playing as this Orc Warboss. Very tanky, very angry hero. Has some new gear in the Elite mod, Bionic Eye, a truck on his back. Can disrupt, can become extremely tanky. Very angry, can charge. I think he's one of the best heroes in the game, although I bet HolyHammer would disagree with me. He probably thinks the Warboss is absolutely horrendous. HolyHammer's opponent is Dave, but I think this is actually Nerea, who I recently posted in a game against Tex. He's a great player, one of the best Tyranid players, probably a little rusty, but he's playing as infiltrating Lictor Alpha. The Lictor Alpha is an infiltration hero, sneaky, stealthy, but he's actually also very powerful in melee, and in some ways you could actually consider him like a melee hero. He doesn't really have... he's not quite as tanky, at least to start out, compared to the more traditionally tanky melee heroes, but he's just very good in melee, very hard to deal with for a lot of units and races. So we do have the melee heroes for both races chasing down the infantry squads from both races, and one of the things that works about that is that basically what they're going for is, first of all, they're going for bleed, the bleed of killing the models off of those squads, and then secondarily they're going for forcing off that unit off the field to improve their field presence while reducing the field presence of their opponents. So I think HolyHammer slightly gets the better of that in trade, putting his shooter boys into the building. By putting his shooter boys into the building, they will actually be safe from the Hormagaunts. It does not actually make that much sense, since, I mean, they could theoretically just run inside the building or jump in the windows and chase after those people. If anything, thinking more realistically, melee should probably counter garrisons, but that's not how the mechanic of the games work. HolyHammer already gets a Shoot-a Knob. Now, the Shoot-a Knob is generally not as good of an upgrade for damage for the shooter boys, but the reason that HolyHammer got that is pretty obvious if you play the game, which is that he wants to be able to detect that Lictor Alpha. Shoot-a Knobs do act as a detector, and they're still not bad otherwise. The big shooters, I'm pretty sure, will be a higher damage buff to the squad, but getting the Shoot-a Knob also acts as a durability buff, since you do get that Shoot-a Knob. The Shoot-a Knob apparently has 285 health, which is pretty good considering the Shooter Boy models only have 100 health. So increases durability. You do get a damage buff from having that Shoot-a Knob because he has his twin-linked Shooter. And then the Shoot-a Knob actually does 100% fire on the move. The rest only has 50%.
We got it, boss. We got it. What do you want with me? Here for years.
Certainly, if you get both the Shoot-a Knob, we have Shoot-a Knobs on both squads. If you get Shoot-a Knobs as well as the big shooters, that just really makes the DPS of Shooter Boys absolutely incredible, especially in Tier 1. It was even better in retail. It's still extremely good in the Elite mod. It might even be the highest DPS you can get out of a Tier 1 ranged unit in Tier 1. And we do see big shooters going up on one of them, not on the other, and now we actually have a third shooter squad, so it's been a while since I've seen triple shooters. But it's certainly an overwhelming range damage build. It's actually going to be fairly good for dealing with the Lictor Alpha. Basically, once the Lictor Alpha comes out of infiltration... Wow, this actually might be a dead Hormagaun brood. Will it? No, I don't think so. Actually, will it? Very close. 1 health on that Hormagaun brood, just barely gets out of there. Will HolyHammer complain about that? Maybe, maybe not. So right now it looks like HolyHammer is getting the better end of things on engagements. He is losing on victory points, though. It's actually 500 to 436 in favor of Dave. Right now, Dave even has a double cap, including this capture on HolyHammer's natural. But HolyHammer is here getting a Gen Bash off, which should theoretically put him ahead in tech. will at least give him an advantage. Raveners are now out for Dave. Raveners are a disruption unit. They function much like Assault Space Marines or Storm Boys, but instead of jumping through the air, they actually burrow underground and then come up underneath. They will disrupt any units that they come up under. They are a melee unit to start out, but they can be upgraded to get a ranged weapon, and a pretty good one at that. Warboss still in here actually has the enhanced custom shooter. Interesting to see that. Looks like it has been improved a bit in the Elite mod to have better range damage. So it actually looks like it'll function quite a bit like the Combi Flamer upgrade, just in terms of actually making the Warboss good at ranged combat. 33.33 DPS is very good for a single entity. And this, I mean, the enhanced custom shooter probably also has 100% fire on the move as well. This could even be a dead Lictor Alpha. No, because the Sluggers themselves are going to risk going down. That actually could be dead Sluggers. Wow, yeah, Sluggers die from that. Wow, HolyHammer took quite a few losses. I didn't even see that he lost a shooter squad as well. So it looked like Dave was about to lose his Lictor Alpha there, but it ended up being HolyHammer who came up really short in that engagement. HolyHammer not doing very well at this point. I mean, Nerea, I haven't seen Nerea around, so I'm assuming that he's a bit rusty. Maybe HolyHammer's a bit rusty as well. And unfortunately, HolyHammer lost one of his upgraded Shooter Boy squads with the Shooter Knob, so he only has this one right here that has no upgrades whatsoever, and unupgraded shooters are not that good. They're a unit that bleeds a lot with actually fairly mediocre damage. HolyHammer decides to replace the Slugger Boys. I was going to say that could be a difficult situation for him. At least I was going to say that might put him behind in tech. As it is, he is a little behind in tech, but not too far behind. I think he did get a little bit of a gen bash over here, but it looks like he either hasn't bought as many generators as Dave, or he lost one of his own. Dave, by the way, also has noted one of the contested power points, and he even has this other contested power point, not noted, but he has the point. So Dave has the better power income, and he hasn't suffered any unit losses whatsoever. We also do see the angry bits from the Warboss. That's probably one of his best war gears these days. Gives him a charge, also increases his health regeneration. It's really good. It allows him to very quickly get into a blob of units, disrupt them. It also, that health regeneration is giving him incredible staying power. So Nerea or Dave definitely winning on the map control at this point. One of the great things about that enhanced custom shooter, though, is that it will actually make him very good for bleeding models off of units like the Termagants as well as the Hormagaunts. Kiting the Warboss will not be as effective because he will actually bleed a lot of models off of the Termagants and the Hormagaunts while they attempt to kite him. So Nereus or Dave still with quite overwhelming map control, backcapping with his Hormagaunts, might even follow that up with a Gen Bash. Hormagaunts, as much as they do not have a whole lot of health, we can see right here they have 8 members and only 763 health. That means they have less than 100 health per model. But they do something like, I believe, 20 melee damage per model, comes out to 160 overall. Pretty good, pretty high DPS, although obviously a pretty squishy unit. So they will be pretty good for bashing generators, but it looks like HolyHammer is going to preempt that. Now, the Hormagaunts will certainly beat the Shooter Boys once they get into melee, but the Shooter Boys can just do so much damage to the Hormagaunts on their approach, as well as we have one squad with big shooters that can suppress them. So Death Dread out for HolyHammer. So HolyHammer actually gets to tier 2, and he makes a tier 2 purchase first. One of the things that works about that Death Dread is that it's incredibly cheap out of the gate. Usually people will get the Burners and Bits upgrade, but even with the Burners and Bits, though the Death Dread is a very inexpensive unit. And HolyHammer, instead of using that Death Dread to harass units while he still has while the Death Dread is still basically uncountered, he's actually using it to bash generators. And we see that those flamers, or the burners from the Death Dread, very good for bashing generators. And the Warboss and the Slugger Boys are just going to keep Nerea's army a little bit busy for a while, so that that Death Dread can just bash a little bit more. That Death Dread does need to be careful, though. Krill will probably use that charge to get out of there, but HolyHammer is still very low, or far behind on VPs, 500 to 250, and Nerea is about to get decap HolyHammer's natural again. So Nerea has been... Wow! That special attack from the Death Dread just wiped a Termagant brood. Killed like 5 models in one hit. So that Death Dread, generally probably one of the weaker walkers, does not have as much health as many of the other walkers, and does not do as much damage. But I mean, obviously we can still see that as a vehicle with this much health and doing heavy melee splash damage, it's going to be very good against infantry. But HolyHammer needs to be really careful, needs to do something about these Venom Broods. Currently the only real vehicle counter that Nerea has, and luckily he did take care of it, but he needs to get some repairs on this Death Dread, not overextend it too much. I know he wants to bash those generators. Now, in addition to overwhelming map control, Nerea also has overwhelming power income. He's got plus 74 with this semi-generator farm, as well as this power point. And maybe HolyHammer knows that Nerea is going to be having a much better power income, so he's trying to take care of that, but he really needs to be careful about not overextending his Death Dread. And HolyHammer has been having trouble with the map control. He's splitting his units and capturing the points, including his natural victory point. Alright, so right now, HolyHammer bought a Weird Boy. Probably, I'd say a very good choice against pretty much anything. Right now, we did see that area of effect disruption coming from the Warp Vomit. But that Weird Boy, pretty much good against any race. Really good. Just, it's a good go-to buy if you don't know what else to buy as Orcs in Tier 2. It has a Plasma Cannon as its basic attack that doesn't even need to set up. Does great area of effect damage against units like the Termagants and the Hormagaunts. Disrupts, and then that Warp Vomit ability is just really good for disrupting melee units and even just ranged units. Now, HolyHammer has finally gotten some of the VPs. He did manage to cap his natural as well as Dave's natural, but now it looks like Dave is going to come over to HolyHammer's natural, start harassing both power, and I'm guessing, will he go to that VP? I mean, it would just be... He probably doesn't have to. I mean, he's got such a huge advantage already. And wow, look at the disruption from that Death Dread. I think from killing one of the Venom Brood models. But now that Death Dread really has to be careful. 122 health, not less than 100. Could now be dead. Let's see, what are we gonna have? Stuff dying for Dave. These are gonna be some good victories for HolyHammer, putting him back in the game. So Dave does lose his Lictor Alpha. HolyHammer now does have a 2-cap. Victory points start ticking down a bit in favor of HolyHammer. But we need those... But HolyHammer's still in a bit of a difficult position. He did just have a nice minor victory, taking out the Lictor Alpha and forcing off the rest of the units off the field, but he's still in a bit of a difficult spot. First of all, he's still in Tier 2. He just purchased Storm Boys. But he's having trouble affording the reinforcements for all of his units, namely the Shooter Boys, as well as these Sluggers, and he needs those Sluggers to repair the Death Dread. He only has one Slugger squad, so his repair, he's not going to be repairing that efficiently as if he had 2 or if he were playing the Mech Boy. Meanwhile, Dave has a Zoanthrope, first of all to do area of effect damage to these Shooter Boys, and also to complement his Venom Brood with its vehicle snare. The focused Warp Blast will snare the Death Dread, although I believe the Death Dread can actually get away from vehicle snares by using its charge. And I've actually found it very difficult to deal Death Dreads that are handled well. I know once I tried using a las cannon out of Tzeentch Infiltration to deal with the Death Dread, and it actually just charged in on the las cannon. Now, one of the good things about HolyHammer's current build, he has the Storm Boys. They will put a lot of pressure on that zone throw and really threaten to wipe it if they jump in. Right now, I think the Storm Boys are overextending, though. They don't want to lose too many models. HolyHammer can't afford to bleed too much, but he is at least putting himself back in this game. Although one of the main problems he's going to have to deal with is that Dave is in Tier 3. He's approaching the point where he can put a Carnifex on the field. Maybe he's even going for a Swarm Lord, and either one of those is going to be tough for HolyHammer to deal with his current build. The Death Dread will lose to that Carnifex we now see coming out. The Storm Boys certainly can do damage to the Carnifex. Wait, yeah, the Storm Boys will certainly do damage to the Carnifex, but they will probably also bleed a lot trying to fight the Carnifex. Warboss has that enhanced custom shooter, meaning he does not have the Power Claw, and it will be quite costly to upgrade him to the Power Claw. But HolyHammer still exerting. He's actually recovering very wonderfully from losing most of this game. He is in trouble with that Death Dread, and oh, he loses his Weird Boy. So unfortunately, a victory now for Dave. And this is bad. Death Dread needs to get out of there. The charge might already be used and on cooldown, so one Death Dread goes down. HolyHammer going for another, which I don't know if it's going to be such a great idea. If he can see that Carnifex before this Death Dread finishes, although it doesn't look like he will, he might want to stop the Death Dread and get some kind of harder AV. I mean, the Death Dread does do a lot of damage to vehicles, but the Carnifex will do more. Death Dread is already out on the field. So, and now we have that Carnifex. Upgrades to Thornback. That's going to be very tough for HolyHammer to deal with. Still does not have a Power Claw. Can't even afford the Power Claw at present. Now the Lictor Alpha. We do see that Lictor Alpha is fully upgraded. This is a very, very difficult Lictor Alpha build to deal with. Makes him a very strong back captor since he will basically counter pretty much any single unit. Lone Hunter, he does 50% more damage and takes 25 less when no other units are around. So, I mean, that means your Lictor Alpha is going to have to be isolated, but it makes him ludicrously powerful. I think it's actually been said that he actually becomes like the most powerful melee commander when he has the Lone Hunter. He also has the Feeder Tendrils, a very powerful weapon that also restores health. This could be really bad for HolyHammer, though. This could actually be GG. HolyHammer has done very well to bring the victory points back, but now he's in trouble. Just barely keeps that Storm Boy squad alive, but will not be able to reinforce it, and that's going to be the end of that Death Dread, and to be honest, probably the end of this game. I can't see HolyHammer coming back from, at this point, having a weaker economy, not as much money, and Nerea already has one Carnifex out on the field, and soon he'll be able to get another. HolyHammer trying to stay in the game on the victory points, but he's already at he already has a VP deficit. He made up a lot of it quite beautifully, but it's going to be tough to see whether or not he can actually make it through. I mean, this Thornback Carnifex right now is mostly uncountered. The only thing he has that can even do any significant damage to it are the Storm Boys, and again, the Storm Boys are just going to bleed models and possibly even get wiped trying to take on the Carnifex. So, I guess, at least for now, what HolyHammer is trying to do is trying to ignore the Carnifex as best as he can. The Storm Boys do at least threaten those Termagants, get them off the cap, but they don't even lose a single model. 1-to-1 cap. HolyHammer does get a decap off on Dave's natural. He now is getting tank busters. So that is some of that better AV that I thought he should have gotten. He can get the tank busters. He could have also gotten a beamy Luda. Although, oh man, but now Dave is getting that second Carnifex, which is what you can often expect from Tyranid players, especially if they've done well economically. Once they're in Tier 3, you can expect multiple Carnifexes. Not just a Carnifex, you can expect multiple Carnifexes, or a Carnifex and a Swarm Lord. And I personally consider the Carnifex a super unit. I mean, given, first of all, the cost and performance of it, I personally consider it a super unit. So it's tough dealing with two of those. It's tough enough dealing with one Carnifex. We do have some tank busters on the field. to at least threaten those units. HolyHammer really at this point just trying to stay alive on VPs, but now we have Dave doing his backcapping again with those termagants. And Rippers are in here just tying up the Shooter Boys so that they can't do much. Now the Carnifex looks like he's going to go for the Tank Busters. So at this point, HolyHammer is going to need some kind of secondary source of AV. I mean, the Tank Busters are even just getting tied up by the Rippers, which is preventing them from firing. And Tank Busters getting way too close to the Carnifex. They're going to start losing models. Still at 4 models, despite being at less than half health. But the Storm Boys, HolyHammer's using the Storm Boys pretty well, especially in combination with Use Your Choppers. This could actually be a dead Venom Brood right here, and I think it will be. Alright, Dave just barely gets him out of there. Oh, Storm Boys are such poor retreat killers that he could not finish off that last model. Now we do see ranged Raveners with their Devourers, very powerful ranged weapon. And it's actually a no-cap game, so HolyHammer doing quite beautifully to stay in this game, has enough red to do a rocks, and he's actually getting a new Death Dread. I can't believe he's doing that. I mean, he knows that there's one Carnifex on the field. I feel like there are a lot of better choices than that Death Dread. I mean, HolyHammer, clearly a much better player than me. Maybe he knows what he's doing. Oh, but he's going to lose these Storm Boys. That's going to be very sad. I mean, look at the charge on that Lictor Alpha. Seems very good. Gets in there. I think he's going to get at least one hit off on these Storm Boys. No. Alright, Storm Boys do get out of there, but those Storm Boys bleed a ton. I believe it's 40 power and 40 requisition, and I think 4 power to reinforce them, especially considering how weak they are. HolyHammer said. So there's that classic HolyHammer rage. That probably means this game is over and that he's given up. But I feel like he could have gotten out some kind of other AV unit instead of that Death Dread. Maybe either a Beamy Luda, even another Tank Buster Squad, or even getting the Power Claw on his Warboss. I mean, as it is, he's got no requisition, so he can't afford to reinforce much of anything. He has red. He might actually want to stop reinforcing and save some of his requisition for a Call to Boys, to be used in combination with the Warboss. But I think putting the Power Claw on his Warboss could have also been a good decision, because that would be doing a lot of damage. The Warboss, I think, could stay in a little longer than the Storm Boys without bleeding. Tyrannoformation used on that building, does destroy that building. And I don't know what HolyHammer can do about this. HolyHammer quite miraculously staying in this game, though. Just not winning at all in the fighting at this point, but staying alive on the victory points. But I think at this point, Dave might just push forward all the way into HolyHammer's base. He might... Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's going to do that. No, I thought he would. Double Thornback Carnifexes. He apparently likes to do that. And this Lictor Alpha, to be honest, at this point, the Lictor Alpha is probably going to win against the Warboss in a fight. And HolyHammer is just trying to pull out all the stops to keep that Lictor Alpha at bay. He is using Use Your Choppers. That probably will be enough to take out, or at least threaten, that Lictor Alpha. Still a 1-to-1 cap. So HolyHammer, wow. I mean, look at the resources right now. So Dave is pretty much pop-capped and can't buy anything else. But even if he loses one of the Carnifexes, he could immediately replace it with another one, or even replace it with a Swarm Lord. Seems to like the Carnifexes, though. Oh, and now these Slugger Boys fighting the Lictor Alpha. They just barely managed to wipe that Lictor Alpha. Might even get the Zoanthrope. That would be really nice. No, Zoanthrope gets out of there with 7 health. Such a close call. But now a 1-to-1 in favor of HolyHammer. And one of these Carnifexes might go down, although as I've said, of course, Nerea might just get another one. Slugger Boys go down, quite sadly. Should be the end of this Carnifex at least. Death Dread might also die. Needs to charge out of there. He wants it to stay alive. 1 Carnifex down. And HolyHammer actually now getting HolyHammer about to take the lead in VPs, using his Warboss as a backcapper. So I think one of the things we might be seeing from HolyHammer is really good judgment of how much to keep his units out on the field. He's keeping his Warboss out on the field with not that much health. I think many other players, certainly myself, would probably retreat the Warboss at this point. But that Lictor Alpha is so oppressive. HolyHammer, again, HolyHammer has the lead. He actually gets these Venom Broods off the cap, so Nerea has actually taken quite a few losses, has done so well on the economy, and is now getting a new Carnifex. I can't wait to see what HolyHammer is going to say when he sees the second Carnifex, but he might win the game anyway. And it's amazing to see HolyHammer winning this game, having inferior walkers, Dave getting a third Carnifex. Oh man. So HolyHammer has actually done really beautifully, but I don't see how he can possibly deal with 3 Carnifexes. I'm not going to put him out of this game yet, considering he's shown that he can do extraordinarily well. He didn't even look like he had what he needed to take on 2 Carnifexes, but he actually managed to do it pretty well, using the Storm Boys as well as the Death Dread and the Tank Busters. But at this point, I don't see how HolyHammer can possibly take on 3 Carnifexes, certainly not with what he currently has. HolyHammer, again, not happy. Oh, that deadly jump. Wow, and HolyHammer saying that even though he doesn't even see that third Carnifex, but we're seeing that classic HolyHammer rage. So, hope you enjoyed the cast. I just said I hope you enjoyed the cast, kind of jokingly. The game wasn't over, but HolyHammer called to concede. Very interesting game. I mean, in a lot of ways, HolyHammer did play very well, but 3. That's all I'm saying. I'm not even saying 3 anything. Just I'm not even saying what 3 of. Just 3. 1, 2, 3. Have a good night.